we will be starting this session now. So, hi guys, I am Aditya and I am the head of the program club and welcome to Summit Programming Camp 2022. Yes, I am audible, right? Can't hear from.
Yeah, I think you are audible, but voice is breaking.
Okay, how is it now?
Better than before.
Okay, give me a second. Yep, is it better now? Mantra, is it better now?
Yeah, now it seems fine.
No. Yeah, so I'll get started then. So is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, as I said, welcome to the Summer Programming Camp, guys. So this will be a camp over roughly 2.5 weeks, where we'll be starting from the basics of C++, which is this session, and we'll be moving on learning about different algorithmic paradigms like binary search, greedy, brute force, and learning the necessary things that we need to, get started with competitive programming, and finally, end up learning the standard template library and the data structures in it. So these are some very useful tools in competitive programming. So in the second part of the session, from 3:30, we'll go briefly about what competitive programming is, why it is so sought after, and why people do it. What are the benefits you get, and where is it useful in real life? So that part we'll be doing in the second part of the session from 3:30. So this first part from 2 to 3:30, we'll kind of brush up to the basics of C and C++. So we'll be focusing on C++ throughout the entire camp. So I'll go through the basics of C++, and if you guys have any issues in the middle or if you get any doubts, do come up. This is something that holds for throughout the camp. So whenever you get any doubts, we won't be able to know that you got a doubt. So you will have to approach us by unmuting or raising hand and asking your doubt out. You can use the chat as well. I think everyone has access to the chat. So whenever you get any kinds of doubt or some issue that you face, do put it out on chat or tell it by raising a hand and then unmuting. Else we won't be able to know if you have any issues. So this whole camp is for you guys to learn programming and get started with competitive programming. So any issues that you face, you will have to come out with it. And the whole camp has been planned for you guys. So you are the main part of the camp. So with that, I'll get started with the basics of C++. So before that, how many of you are familiar with the programming language? Can you just raise your hand? So some language, so C, C++, Python, something. So try to be interactive whenever some questions are asked, because based on your feedback only, I will be able to know what you guys know and what you guys don't know. Okay, so that's pretty good raising hands. So all of you would be familiar with some kind of programming language, writing code in some kind of way. If not, as well, fine. So for getting started C++, I request you all to have an online IDE or an app, something like VS Code or CodeBlocks open. So if you don't have some kind of app like that installed, what you can do is you can go to this website called JDoodle. So it is a free online compiler, and in that you can say just you choose C++ 17, and yeah, you will have some basic code present over there. So the best way to learn a language is to code along and learn it, right? You will have to see firsthand what is happening. So I'd request all of you to have either JDoodle open or some kind of interface like VS Code or CodeBlocks open. So everyone's on a laptop, right? Most of you are on a laptop, right? So if not, do join in with a laptop, so that you can have an IDE open and code along when required. So this is doable, right? Anyone has any issues? Yeah, by the way, everyone can lower your hands now. So if you have any issues with opening JDoodle or opening some kind of IDE like CodeBlocks or VS Code, then yeah, you can keep your hands raised. Else you can put down your hands. Okay, I guess you guys just forgot to put on your hands. So, okay, I'll get started with it. So the code that I have here, so lines 1 to 7, for now, you can think of it to be some kind of compulsory code that I need to always have in a C++ program. Later, we'll go through what exactly each line means. But for now, just think of it as some kind of compulsory code that should always be present, especially these two lines. And all code that you write must be within these two brackets. So these 4 lines just stay as it is in any kind of code that you write in C++. And write all your code within these 2 curly braces for now. Right? So imagine this to be some kind of compulsory code that is present. So now, are you guys familiar with the concept of a variable? You can raise hands again. Am I lagging or? Yeah. So a variable, you can imagine it to be some kind of memory space that is present within the computer, and you can store stuff in that memory space. So how can I, make a variable in C++? That is the first thing that we'll have. So making a variable, first I need to know what type of variable it is. Whether that variable is going to store an integer in it, or it is going to store a character in it, or it is going to store some decimal number in it. So this integer, character, decimal number, these are known as data types. So it tells what type of data you are storing in that location. So now if I want to tell the computer to create a variable in C++, so what I need to do is, first I need to give what data type it is. And then followed by that, I need to give variable name. So this is just syntax, right? This is not actual syntax. So the format will be, first you have to mention what data type the variable is. And after that, you have to mention the name of the variable. So name of the variable, some examples that you can give. You can give any string, something like my name is Aditya, or you can give frog, or E13125, something like that. Anything that starts with a letter and has letters, numbers, and underscore is allowed. So these are the allowed variable names in C++. So you write data type followed by variable name, and then you terminate with a semicolon. So what this does is tells the computer to reserve some memory location for this variable with this data type. So an example would be, if I want to declare an integer, so want to declare an integer, I have to first give the data type, which will be int for integers, followed by variable name. So maybe I just want to give variable name as a, so int a. So this is the declaration of a variable in C++. Data type followed by variable name. So suppose you want to declare a character variable, then you have to do car followed by whatever name you want to give. Maybe I'll give QWERTY. Car QWERTY. So here QWERTY is the name of the variable and the data type is car. And similarly, if I want a decimal number, I have 2 options. I can either go for float, so float maybe x, or I can go for double y. The difference between float and double is double has a bigger range, you can say. So when I declare an integer, it doesn't mean that I can store all possible integers, because memory space allotted for this variable would be finite, right? So whatever number I can store within that memory space is what I can assign to the variable. So each data type has its own range. For example, for int, it is about 10 power 9, minus 10 power 9 to 10 power 9, approximately something like this. And for float, it will be some 10 power 300, minus 10 power 300 to 10 power 300, something like that. So each of these will have its own ranges. Double has a bigger range than float. That is the difference. But you can use both float and double to store decimal values. So now, so far so good, right? Everyone's fine with how it's been going so far. So if you get any doubts, okay. By the way, all of you can put your hands down. Lower hand. Can I? Globally lower hand. Okay, yeah, I guess you guys are lowering down. So yeah, so this is the syntax. So I'll maybe put it in this green color thing. So yeah, so now what I did is, this is called commenting. So I put 2 slashes in front of it, right? So when I do that, this line becomes a comment. So what a comment means is, so suppose I want to write I've written a huge piece of code and my friend wants to read the code. So naturally, he might not be able to understand the whole thing just by reading code, right? So we give some kind of hint kind of thing, explaining this is what I've written in the code. So you use comments for that. Whenever you put slash, double slash in front of the line, this line will be kind of ignored by the computer. So this line has no meaning for the computer. But you can put some useful things that you want to convey to a person. For example, like right now. So declaring a variable, I am telling that the syntax is data type followed by variable name. And these are some valid C++ statements. Yeah. Now, I have declared variables, but I have not given any values to them. All I've done is I've set the computer to reserve some memory space, and that in that memory space, I want to store an integer or a float or a double variable. So, but then I want to assign value to the variable. Maybe I just want to store the value 25. So in that case, one way to do it is, so again, I'll put it in comments. So variable name equal to whatever value I want to give, and followed by semicolon. Semicolon is like the terminating thing that you give to any statement in C++. Every statement in C++ will be terminated by a semicolon. So always don't forget your semicolon. So suppose I want to assign, so maybe I want to assign A to be C or QWERTY to be equal to a character. So now for integers, you can directly just give the number. However, it says it is an integer. For characters, what I need to do is I need to enclose the character in single quotes. So maybe T. So if I want this variable to store the character T, in that case, I need to enclose it in single quotes like this. I can't do something like this. If I do QWERTY equal to T, what this means is there could be some variable named T. Whatever value T has, that will be assigned to QWERTY. So it's like doing something like this. Int A, int B, and then A equal to 3, and then I do B equal to A. So B is an integer, and whatever value A has, that will be stored in B here. This is how you copy a value from a variable to another. But if you want to assign a constant character T, then in that case, I have to enclose it in single quotes. This tells the computer that I want to store the constant character T in the variable QWERTY and not something else. Whereas when I do this here, this is equivalent to B equal to C. Because whatever value is present in A, that will go and get stored in B. And yeah, similarly for float variables, x equal to 2.30423, something like this. So this is how you declare variables, and this is how you assign values to variables. You can also combine both declaration and assignment. How you do that is int b equal to 5. So this not only declares a variable named b, but also assigns it the value of 5. Right? So any doubts so far? If you guys have doubts, do raise your hand. So C21 and Anthony, do you guys have doubts? I think you had raised from before. And maybe just lower hands for now. Okay. So no doubts so far, right? Now we've seen how to declare a variable and how to assign value to a variable. Now, what if I want the user to tell me what value he wants to store? So here I am like, as a programmer, I am by default, I'm giving a value to store. But maybe instead, I want to take input value, and whatever input value is there, that should get stored. So how will I get input into a variable from a user? So for that, for taking input, syntax is pretty simple. So how it goes is cin, so this is a keyword, cin, followed by these two V brackets, followed by variable name. And this works for all types, all data types, int, char, float, double. So all data types, this is a single way to get input. Cin followed by variable name. Right? So if I want to say get input into the variable A, in that case, I'll have to do cin followed by A. And whatever input the user gives, that will go and get stored in A. And the same way for character, float, double, for everyone, right? This is to take input. Now, for output, again, something similar. I need to do C out here. So C in over here, but the output will be C out, followed by these two, the reverse V brackets, and followed by variable name. And this is to take output. So let's say I do C out A. So now let's forget all of this part of code. So I have declared a variable, I have taken input into the variable, and I'm outputting the value in the variable. So now if I run this piece of code, the terminal, so the one on the right side, this is the terminal. So this will wait for me to enter a value. And once I enter the value, the same value will be outputted. So I just click on this run button. So my code got compiled, nothing came here. So there is no error in what code I wrote. And now the cursor is waiting for me to write input. Let's say I give input as 65 and I give enter. The value of 65 got outputted. So this is how you input and output a variable. Any doubts in input output? Okay, and something in chat. Yeah, as Mantra said, yes. Just try playing around with variable names and see which works and which does not work. There are some other special characters that are allowed as well, but I'll leave it to you guys to explore that. So, yeah, so input, output, and declaration is clear, right? Okay, share program, I didn't get you. Okay, I guess you want me to share the code. Okay. Okay, I'm assuming that's it. So no doubt so far. Now we'll move on to something more. So let's start with writing our first program, just with variables and input output. So what I want to do is, before that, now let's do this as well. If I have two variables that I want to declare, both of integer type, then I give int a and int b. So a and b are two variables of integer type. I can declare both at the same time as well. How I do that is, I remove this thing and I replace with comma. So int followed by all the variables of that type I want to declare, separated by a comma. So int a comma b will declare two variables. So this way you can declare two variables continuously, and you can even declare 3 or 4 variables continuously. Int a, b, c, d, all of that is doable. Int a, b, c. Now, same thing goes for input as well. Suppose I want to take input into both a and b. So user will enter two numbers. First number will be a, second number will be b. So in that case, I can write as C in A and then C in B. So whatever number the user enters first will get stored in A, and the second number will get stored in B. I can merge these two as well into one statement by doing this. Cin followed by variable names in the order in which they are entered. So Cin A B, that means first number goes to A, second number goes to B. And something similar works for cout as well. Cout A B means the first number goes here and the second, first A gets printed and then B gets printed. So let's try running this. So code had no errors. First it is asking for A's value. So I'll enter 3 for A's value and I'll give an enter. Then I'll enter 4 for B's value and I'll give an enter. The output came out to be 34. The reason is there was no spacing between A and B. In some programming languages, there is like by default, the next output comes in the next line and all. But in C++, nothing of that sort. So by default, there is no spacing between two output statements. So even if it was this way, cout A and cout B, the output would have remained the same. Right? So this is combining multiple inputs and combining multiple outputs together. So now, when I wanted to output 3 and 4, the output came out to be 34. Okay, anything else? Okay. So the output came out to be 34, but I want 3 and 4 to come separately. So in that case, I would want to output a space, right? Or let's say instead of space, I want 3 and 4 to come in separate lines. So in that case, what I can do is I have two options. So one is I can use cout endl. So what cout endl does is it takes the cursor. So once 3 is printed, the cursor will go from here to the next line. So if I run the same code, okay, that is an error, I guess. Okay, yeah. So now if I give 3 and then 4, so 3 gets printed in the first line, and then the cursor goes to the next line, and then 4 gets printed. So this is if you want to print a new line. And the same thing you can also do using cout /n. Right? So slash, when you put cout /n, this does not print slash and then n, because slash and n when put together, they form a special character kind of thing. So because of that, cout slash n leads to the cursor going to the next line, something similar to what happens in indel. So if I give 3 and 4, something similar happens. So if I want to display text out, so say I want to display, let's just say we have only one variable, int a, c in a, and then I want to display the value of the variable is. So that is constant text. To display constant text, what you have to do is write the constant text within double quotes, and then put a semicolon. So this will display the constant string. So if I hover on it, it shows, right? It shows const car 30 something. So basically that means this is a constant string of characters. And I guess the size of it is 30, so it's coming out to be that way. So the value of the variable is, and then a will get printed. So we can try running it as well. If I just enter, say, 78. So it first printed the value of the variable is, note that I've put a space over here. Let's say there's a space over here. And then the value of a came out, 78. Right? So far, so good. Yeah, you can enter 3 space 4 as well. Yeah, I guess that has been clarified. So far, taking input, output, outputting variable, outputting string, these have been done. So you can also output just a single decimal number. So something like, say, if I want to output 23.5, cout 23.5 works. And to output just a single character, you can use single quotes as well. Cout t works. For multiple characters, you'll have to enclose in double quotes. For that, this. But then if you want to output a single character, you can use single quotes itself. Double quotes also works here. So you can even do something like cout t. This thing and this thing, both are exactly the same from a user point of perspective. Right, so I'm kind of covering a lot of things, but all of this is syntax, and we'll be sharing you all of these syntax as well in the form of a Google slide. So I'll maybe just go through that. So we'll be sharing all the variety of things that you can do with cout, cin, and all. So yeah, don't worry if it feels like I'm putting a lot of content into it. But make sure that you understand what is going on, right? So do you guys have any doubts so far? Okay. Can you replace endl with any character? I didn't get you, Shubhan. Shubhan, can you unmute? Yeah, Shubhan. Okay, if you're not able to unmute, can you just elaborate on it? I didn't get what you mean by replace. So endl is a keyword. It's a special word like cin and cout. So that endl forces the code to go to the next line. If you mean something like, can I do endl and then hello world, something like this? Yes, you can do this. You can always, merge a bunch of cout statements or merge a bunch of cin statements. Could you tell me examples for character, cin and cout? Okay, character also it works the same way only. So car x, to take input, it will be cin x. To take output, it will be cout x. Suppose you want to assign a character value to it. So here x is a variable name and the character that it stores is w. And maybe I'll just show on the terminal as well. So the code is expecting an input character. So I'll enter maybe E, and E got printed out. Even special characters are characters. So even and is a character. Even just 3 is also technically a character. So 3 can be stored in a character variable as well and in a normal integer variable as well. Does that clear your query, Suresh? Input and output, to output the content or input the content in a variable, the syntax is the same for all types of variables. Cin variable name, cout variable name. Just for constants, it slightly differs. So if you want to output numbers or decimals, just output it directly. And instead, if you want to output a single character, you do it this way. For a bunch of characters, you do it this way. To output value stored in a variable, you do it this way. So yeah, in that case, yeah, W will be the output. Okay, no, here W won't be the output because what I'm doing is first I'm assigning W to it, and then I'm telling the user to output X, to give an input for X. So suppose this statement wasn't there. Then in this case, output will be W. Yeah, W got outputted. I maybe zoom in. Yeah, so in this case, W got outputted. So, but then if I do this, so initially W is present in X, but then later I'm telling the user, give me input for X. So whatever input the user gives will override the value W present. So then E will be present in the variable. So I guess it is blocking. I'll just start and later. Yeah. So in this case, if I give input as star will get outputted because star overrides the value of W. However, if code was like this, first I'm taking input, then I'm overriding. In this case, W will be stored in the value next. Whatever value is the latest value that is assigned to the variable, that will be the value stored in the variable. So for example, here, even if I give, okay. And so this is how errors come. So it says that error X was not declared in the scope. It's because I didn't declare I have declared the character after using it. So I will have to do the declaration part before itself. Correct. Now, in this case, if I input R, W will only get outputted because the value of W overrides whatever value I gave here. Yeah, okay. I guess you've told a yes. So is that clear, Suresh? Okay, if that's clear. Now, a small thing. So I had told that suppose I have int ABC and maybe somewhere in the code A equal to 73 was written, and then let's say there are like 100 lines of code later here. And now if I want to copy whatever value A has into B, what I did was I just did B equal to A. Now, what if I want B to store twice the value of A? In that case, I can do B equal to 2 into A. So 2 multiplication operator A. So this will then, now B will then store the value of 73 into 2, which is 146. You do this. So output came out to be 146. I can even do something like 2 into A plus 3. So this will give me 149. Yeah. And now I have an interesting question for you guys. What if I do B equal to A by 2? What do you think the output will be? Can you put on chat? So code is you have int ABC, A equal to 73, B equal to A by 2. And I'm telling C++ to output the value of B. What do you think will be stored? 36. 36, okay. So why not 36.5? Because 73 by 2 is 36.5, right? Okay, so everyone says 36, so everyone's pretty familiar with this. So the thing is, A is an integer variable. So A is an integer, 2 is an integer. Now, if both operands of the division operator are integers, then only the quotient will be outputted and the remainder will just be neglected. So here, if I give C out B, the output will come out to be 36, like all of these said. Because both A and B are integers, the output will just be the quotient, right? And B is also an integer, so only an integer will be stored here. So now I have a more interesting question. Float and B equal to A by 2. Here would be. What do you think the output will be in this case now? Yeah, you can put in chat again. 36.0. Okay. No, 36.5. Okay, so 3 people have said 36.0. So anyone saying it's 36.5? Okay, yes, you've got a 36.5. So now what happens here is, in this expression, this gets evaluated first. So A by 2 gets evaluated first in the computer. what computed checks is, okay, there's a division. I look at both the operands. So A is an integer variable. 2 is an integer variable. So A by 2 itself will get evaluated to 36. And now, so this is an integer. So A by 2 is an integer now. Now, what we are doing is, in the float variable that is going to store decimal values, we are telling it to store 36, because this operation A by 2 will give you 36 as output, not 36.5 as output. So if you run code, output came out to be 36. Like 36.0, 36 both are correct. Like the decimal thing, you can adjust the decimals. That's something you can look at how you can do that. So right now, because it's an integer, like B is storing the value exactly 36, it's not outputting any decimal value. But still, because A and 2 are integers, even if you kept a float variable over here, the output will come out to be an integer. So now that I've tried out with int float pair, you can try what happens when both are float, when B is integer and A is float. So you can try out all the different combinations and see how data types exactly work in C++. So this is something like a to do for you guys, right? So does anyone have a doubt now? It will be 36.0 because of the fact that A and 2 are both integers. Suppose A was float, in that case, output will be, it's float by int, so output will be float. So this will be get evaluated to 36.5, and hence B will store the value 36.5. 36.5 is the output. So now that you guys know operations, can you all go to JDoodle or IDE? What I want you guys to do is write a simple code in C++ that takes in 2 integers as input and outputs their sum. Yep, can everyone do this? Okay, so just share the answer. Yeah, so can all of you go to your IDs? I'll maybe display the default code that you have to write. And I guess even if you go in JDoodle, I think there'll already be a default code. Yeah, I have written some code here, so it's saved over here. Yeah, so I guess you'll have this default code. If not, you can just copy paste whatever is written over here. So what you need to do is declare and take input in 2 integers, and then output their sum. So once you're done, can you just raise your hand? Okay, so we have 10 people who have coded. Okay, so 17. I guess we have 200 participants, but only 17 were able to code it. Okay, how to run the code in JDoodle? Good question. So what you can do is, so like when I was coding over here, I was giving input kind of when after I ran the code. But in JDoodle, what you can do is you can give the input beforehand itself. So the code is just adding two integers. You put in both the integers over here, and after you write your code, click on execute, and it should execute your code. I guess right now I've written no code, so nothing should happen. Okay, yeah, so nothing happened. In the result, nothing came. So let's just check. Let's say just give a cout statement. Hi. And yeah, there's no input here, but still if I give execute, okay, it seems invalid. Why is that? Yes, so yeah, if I run it is working now. Yeah. So for this program, you need to give two inputs. So just give two numbers as input, separated by space or enter, right? Both work. And after that, you give execute. Suppose your code has an error. So here there is no input. If there is an error, the error will come over here. So here I missed the semicolon. So because of that, it says expected semicolon before this thing. So it tells you what error it is, so you can change your code accordingly as well. Okay, so we have around 20 people done. Okay. Okay, then let's get started with the code. So can one of you volunteer to like tell the code line by line, like explain what you did? So I'll maybe ask. Okay, Alex J plus, can you unmute?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what is the first thing that you did?
I did I declared two variables x and y, int x comma y.
So int x comma y. You declared two
Yeah.
variables.
Yeah, and I collected the input like cin x comma y. I mean by using that brackets.
Cin x comma y. So this is first
And
declaring the variable and then taking input. Yeah.
Yeah, and cout x plus y.
Cout
X plus y.
Yeah, this is something I didn't tell, but in cout you can even output arithmetic expressions like this. So you can do cout x plus y, x minus y, x into y, x by y, all sorts of things. X by y plus c. So you can give any kind of arithmetic expression directly in the cout as well, and that will work. So for this piece of code, this will work, right? So I give 12 and 15, and I execute. Yeah, output came out to be 27. So if you didn't know this before, what you could have done is you have declared a variable int z and assigned the value of x plus y to it, and then you can output z. And from this, you can get how to get two variables input, add them, and output the sum. Right? So this is pretty straightforward, right? Does anyone have any doubt? What happens when we code in Replit? I didn't understand. What happens means you can code in Replit. Replit is like there also I think something similar. It will be something similar to this ID that I'm having. You'll have to enter input in the terminal. But in JDoodle, you'll have to enter it beforehand itself, before running the code over here. Okay, so I guess if there's more doubt, we'll get this also. Yeah. So now we'll go into something called if else. So let's say the program that I want to do is something like this. So the user will give me the age of a person as an integer, and I have to tell him if he's eligible to vote or not. So if his age is more than 18, I'll have to output eligible to vote. Else, I'll have to tell him he's not eligible to vote. So I have to conditionally choose which statement to output based on what age is given by the user. So for that, we have a set of statements called the if-else statements. So first, so we'll just declare a variable called age and take input into it. So now, if age is greater than or equal to 18, then I will have to output he is eligible. Else, I will have to output is not eligible. So how if else works is the syntax is if some kind of condition, right? So I have given age greater than equal to 18. So if you give some kind of condition, then whatever code you write within these two curly braces will get executed. So if the condition is true, these lines will get executed. Else, so if you put an else part, so if the condition is false, this part will get executed. If the condition is true, it will be this part. If the condition is false, it will be this part. So in this case that I have over here, again, this green lines are again another way of commenting code. So if you put slash star and slash star slash, whatever is between it, it gets commented. So coming to the if else part, if age is greater than or equal to 18, then you can output eligible. Else you can output ineligible. And now if I run this piece of code, so it is waiting for input. Let's say I enter 19. In that case, it output eligible because age was equal to 19 and 19 is more than equal to 18. So see out eligible happened. And else see out ineligible happened. So suppose I give age as 6. In that case, ineligible got outputted. So this is the syntax for writing an if-else statement. If you want to conditionally execute something based on whether some condition is satisfied or not. So if some kind of condition that you give here. So here I give age greater than equal to 18. If the condition is true, this will get executed. If the condition is false, this will get executed. Now, this else part is actually not necessary always. So you can kind of remove this as well, and the code will still work. What this will do is, if age is greater than equal to 18, it will execute this part. Else, it will go to line 23, whatever is present in line 23. So see out, maybe I just give 5, something like this. So now, in this case, what do you think the output will be if a person is not eligible to vote? If his age is less than 18? You can put it in the chat. So if his age is less than 18, so you're just taking input, I'll delete this for now. And if age is greater than 18, you're outputting eligible, and then you have C out high. So if age is less than 18, so what computer does is, it comes to this line, checks over here. So this check came out to be false. His age is not greater than equal to 18. So the computer will go to the end of line 12. So basically, it will go to start of line 13, and it will output high. So if I give input as 5, I got the output as 5. Whereas if I give input as 19, in that case, eligible will also get printed, and high will also get printed. Eligible also got printed, high also got printed. Right? So this is just the if statement, and the previous one was if else statement. So any doubts in if or if else? I am assuming no doubts. Okay. So now this is an example of one
Aditya,
condition.
There is one more doubt. Check that.
Yeah, which is?
Scroll down.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Good question. So what if I want to check for 2 things? So right now here I'm just checking for 1 thing. So I'm checking if age is more than equal to 18. So the other, so here I've used greater than equal to. Similar to greater than equal to, you have greater than, you have less than, you have less than equal to. And if I want to check for equality, age must be equal to 18. In that case, I have to put double equal to, because single is used for assignment, as we saw before. So if I want to check for conditions, I have to put double equal to check. So greater than equal, less than equal, less than, greater than equal to. You have not equal to also. This is not equal to. Again, I'll mention all of these in the slides, but just mentioning right now to show you the variety of options that are available. So now, like as someone had mentioned in the chat, what if I want to check, if the age is between 0 and 18, right? So maybe I want to check just that. So there are 2 conditions there. Age must be less than 18 and age must be more than 0. So I have condition 1 and I have condition 2, and I want both to be true. So one way to do it is, just put a double and between them, right? Double ampersand symbol. So say, for example, the thing that one guy mentioned in the chat, age should be more than 0 and less than 18. So if the condition is, I want age to be this way. For this case, first condition is this. So I'll replace it with this. Age greater than 0, 0 less than age, both of them are the same. Second condition is this. So for that, I will replace condition 2 with this. This is like, this is called the logical AND operator. So it is similar to the AND that I'm using for speaking purpose. So if age is more than 0 and age is less than 18, then maybe I want to output 0 to 18. Right? Else not 0 to 18. So yeah. So this piece of code will output this line if age is in 0 to 18, like greater than 0 and less than 18. Else it will output this. And it's not necessary you have to use double AND. You can even use an English AND. Right? So this also works. I'll just compile and show maybe. So suppose I enter 6. I enter 6, it should say 0 to 18. It is. Suppose I enter 19. It is showing not 0 to 18. Suppose I enter -2. It's not an age, but it will still show not 0 to 18. Right? And if there is AND, there should also be OR. So English OR works, or this thing works. Double straight line. So these are the logical AND and the logical OR operators, simple to the AND and OR that we're using in English speaking. If both are satisfied, so if this condition and this condition, or if this condition or this condition. So OR, what it does is, if either of the conditions are true, it will, say, okay, fine, your code is correct. So maybe I want to find out if a person is an infant or a senior citizen, say. So in that case, the two conditions will be either say age is maybe less than 2 or age is more than 60. So if either of these two conditions, if even one of these two is satisfied, this piece of code will be executed. If both are satisfied also, this piece of code will be executed. If both of them evaluate to false, like if the person's age is say 18, then both these conditions will come out to be false. In that case, this will happen. This piece of code will be executed. And this will get outputted. So any doubts so far? No, not double V. Double V is for input output. So you just use a single V bracket like this. Age less than 2, age greater than 60. Suppose you want to include equal to result, you put less than or equal to like this, or greater than or equal to like this. And yeah, is that clear to everyone? Okay, so last thing is for if else is the if else ladder. So let us say you want to, your score in a course, so and you want to find out what grade you got. Okay, so int mark, C in mark. So mark is given as input by your teacher, and you want your code to output what grade you will get. So if your mark is more than 90, so in that case, let's say you get S grade. So C out S. Now else. So now I want to check if mark is more than 80. So if mark is in the range 91 to 100, say you get S. Let's just say this is how it works. So if it's 91 to 100, it is S. Now else. I want to check now mark, if else part, if the code comes to the else part, then I know my mark is not more than 90. So if mark is in 81 to 90, then let's say I get A grade. So now what I do is, else if mark is greater than 80, see out A. Now again, even if this is not satisfied, so this thing just keeps on going, right? And you have a lot of brackets and code looks messy. So for this, we have an alternative when I have to, do multiple checks like this. In this case, what I can do is, if mark greater than 80, see out S, else if mark greater than 80, see out A. So, and I'll maybe add one more. Else if, so I will add else, see out, not SA. Now, in this case, what happens is, let's say mark is a 91 to 100. Then this condition is true. See out S. S gets printed, and the code then goes to the end of line 19. So basically, it skips the whole thing after that. And whatever is present over here, these lines get executed. So if marks is in 91 to 100, this gets executed, and then control goes here. If mark is in 81 to 90, this is evaluated to false. So then you go to check the next condition. Next condition is mark greater than 80. This comes out to be true. So A is printed, and again, control goes here. So you can imagine it like it first checks this, then this, then this, then this, and so on. And the first time you get the condition to be evaluated to true, that statement gets executed, and control goes to the end of the whole chain. Right? So does anyone have any doubts here? In if, else, if part, you can even have more else if. Mark greater than 70, and then something, and then finally, and again, each step in this process is optional. Like this else is optional, this else if is optional, everything is optional. But the only thing is the last one should be an you can't have else and then else if. This is wrong. You should have an if at the first, how many else ifs you want in the middle, and then an else optional in the end. Right? You can't have an else if after an else. So this is part of syntax. Later you'll understand why it is this way. But for now, you can take it to be a rule. For an example execution. So in this case, if I run the code, so okay, yeah, this is an error. This is not proper code. So now suppose I enter square 78, then marks grade came out to be B. Suppose I enter 86, grade came out to be A. Suppose I enter 99, grade came out to be S. Suppose I entered 1, it will fail all these 3 checks. So it will come here, and output will come out to be not SAB. Any doubts? Okay, there are other grades as well, but this is just an example of this one. So, yeah. Do you guys have any doubts in this? Anything that you want me to try out and check? And again, if you have anything that you want to try out, you can definitely go and do it on your JDoodle, right? Or any idea that you're using. Because a lot of this you'll get more familiar with only by trying out different things. Right now, I'm like kind of dumping a lot of syntax in you guys, but you'll get more familiar with these only if you start writing code by yourself. So yeah. But right now, just get to understand what does what. You need to remember it now itself. Okay, so no doubts means I'll hand over to Mantra. Yeah, and you guys can put down your hands, okay?
Yeah. Am I audible and visible?
Yep.
Let me just share the screen. Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Yeah, so this was variables and if else, and now we'll move on to another very important part of any programming language, which are loops. So the reason that you need loops is to execute some piece of code more number of times. For example, I want to print numbers from 1 to 100. Now I can't just sit and type cout 1, then handle, then cout 2, then handle. This process will take forever, and surely there should be some alternative. Like smart people created this language. So, and yeah, there is the alternative of loops. So loops can be used to do any repetitive task. In this case, it was printing 200 number. And firstly, I'm going to cover the for loop. So the for loop has this syntax. Let it load first. So it's not loading. Okay, fine. I'll just copy it here. So this is basically the syntax for loop, where first part is the initialization part, then there is a semicolon, and then there is test expression part, another semicolon, and there is update expression, and inside the curly braces there is the body of it. So what is the role of all this initialization, test expression, update expression part? That you can understand from this diagram. Is it visible properly, or I need to present somehow? Okay, yeah, it worked. So this is the flow of a for loop whenever you write a for loop. So what happens is, first the initialization expression will be executed, and then it will check the test expression. If it's correct, then it will move on to the body part. And after the body part is completed, it will go to the update expression. And update expression will directly again lead you back to test expression. So until test expression becomes false, it will keep on going through this loop. And whenever it becomes false, it will break out of the for loop. And understanding this with an example, this is the code to print 1 to 100 numbers. So firstly, the font size is proper, right? It's visible. Can anyone just confirm in chat? Or do I need to increase the size? Okay. Is anyone here or everyone just left? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
think font size is fine.
Yeah. So in this example, the initialization statement that I've put is int I equal to 1. So you just learned variables, right? So I'm declaring a variable I as an integer data type and assigning it value 1. So now I stores 1. Now my test expression is I less than equal to 100. This also you just learned. What this means is when I is less than or equal to 100, this will result true, else this will result false. And now the third thing is update expression. So my update expression currently is I equal to I plus 1. So this might be a bit new. So let me just take 1 minute and explain this. So in this case, what will happen is computer will calculate I plus 1 and assign it back to I. So if I was equal to 3 at some point, then calculating I plus 1, it will calculate 4 and then assign it back to I. So after I is equal to 3, after I equal to I plus 1, I value of I will become 4. Basically, this is what this I equal to I plus 1 statement does. So in my for loop, what I've done is in body, I've put cout I and then there is a space. So what it will do is at I equal to 1, it will start printing I equal to 1. It will print 1. It will after body, it will move on to the update expression part. Update expression is I equal to I plus 1. So if I hand simulate this, I is equal to 1. I print 1. I set I equal to I plus 1. And then after the update statement, it will go back to test expression. So I check if I less than equal to 100. Yes, I becomes 2 here. So I is less than equal to 100. So now I'm in for loop of I equal to 2. I again print 2. I set I equal to I plus 1. I again check I is less than equal to 100 and so on. It will repeat forever till it will repeat till I reaches value 101, where this condition will give false and it will break out of the loop. If I just run this, Yeah. So as you can see in the output, all the numbers from 1 till 100 are printed. So this is the use of for loop where you can use it to do a task multiple times. So here I have explained all this in slides. When I share slides, you can go through this, but it is basically the same. Initialization, the condition to test expression, and the update values. Okay, so any doubt in the general syntax of for loop?
Yes, someone would have to explain once again.
Okay, okay. So what for loop contains is four basic parts. First is the initialization part, second is the test expression part, third is the update expression part, and fourth is body. So the way you can understand this is through this flow chart where you can see how the steps are executed in computer. So it will initially execute the initialization expression stage, then it will check if test expression is true. If it is true, then it will move on to the body. And after completing body, it will move on to update expression and then back to test expression. So till this test expression gives true, it will run forever. It will run. And as soon as it gives false, it will break out. So if I give something which never happens, so okay, let me say if I greater than 0, what I've done is run this loop until I becomes either I becomes less than equal to 0, because initially when it was I less than equal to 100, it will run if that condition is true. So it will run if I is greater than 0, which you can see it will happen like in each iteration I is increasing, so it will run uh, forever. It won't stop, but actually it will stop. So there, I think I should explain one thing which Aditya might have missed, and it's actually a bit advanced level. So you can think that int I can store any integer, whatever I type here. So if, let me just explain this concept first, and then I'll do this. So what will be the output of this code? Can anyone guess it? Just put your guesses in the Teams chat. This code, C int I and the C out I. There is not much else here. So do you think it will output that correct number, that one with bunch of zeros? Or it will output something else? So yeah, if you don't know, then it's hard to guess, but if I just run and show you. Yeah, it outputted something else. It didn't output actually correct number. And the reason is in numbers, in integers or any data type, you can't store till whatever bound you want. The numbers are actually bounded. In case of int, you can store only till I think 2.14 times 10 raised to 9. So if you put something more than this number, then int data type can't handle this and it will overflow. That's what they have mentioned here, that there is a overflow and it will come back to some values. So always make sure that whatever you're storing in the data type, you know that it can handle it. So int can't handle anything more than that. There is some data types like float will be able to handle more and double will be able to handle even more. So just keep this in mind that each data type can only handle till some limit. And was this part clear? That, yeah, overflow. So if you had any doubt in this part, then ask now. Yeah, okay. That should be clear, right? Later on, you will realize what is the limit for each one and how you can calculate the limit. But for now, let's just say that a limit exists. So in this case, when I run this, it will start printing and like it will print a lot of numbers. And after some point, it will overflow and come back to negative side and then it will stop. But I would like to stop it before that. So in this condition, this expression will evaluate false after a lot of iteration, after I reaches 2.14 into 10⁻⁹, and it goes after that, then this expression will evaluate full. So until that, it will keep on printing, till this expression is true. And this is the update condition which happens every time after the loop. So let me just hand unroll this simulation. This code is actually this. If I greater than 0, cout I equal to I plus 1. And then this code repeated. And whenever at some moment the I becomes, this condition is yeah, so this actually will go inside of this. Yeah, my bad, but let me just correct it. And again, the same code is repeated here. And this is how the execution is happening. The initialization statement happens first, and it will check the test condition. If the condition is true, then as Aditya has explained, it will come back to this block, and it will print I. It will increase I by 1. Then again, it will check the condition, and this process is repeated. So this is the flow of the for loop. Now the person who had the doubt, is it clear now? I can't find the person, but I hope it's clear. Yeah. Suresh, is this clear now? How the for loop works? Okay. I would take that as a yes, but fine. Yeah. So there is a problem for you guys, a task, which is to find if a given number is prime or not. So yeah. So basically, the program is you are given a number input n, and you have to figure out if n is prime or not. Can someone give me not even code, just an algorithm is also fine. Like, how will you figure out if a number n is prime or not? Okay. Those who have any ideas can raise their hand or mention in chat. Yes, sorry about. Yeah, sorry about that. That was a plane flying by. So 2 people have raised hand. By the way, you all know what is prime, right? I can expect that at least. So prime number is which has a which has only one and itself as divisor. No other number divides the number, then it is a prime. Okay. Okay. Alex, can you say your algorithm? How will you figure out if a number is prime?
Okay, we have to take, suppose the given number is n, we have to take numbers from 2 to n by 2, and we have to check if that each number is remainder of each number with respect to the given number is 0. If any of the number divides it, then it is not prime, else it will be prime.
So can you code this in for loop? You can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So firstly, I'll explain you the simplest version of this because it directly comes from the definition of it. So definition of prime is all the number from 2 to n minus 1 are not divisors of n. If this condition is true, then n is a prime. And to check if a number a divides b, what you can do is you can use the reminder. So if A mod A divides B, then if B mod A is equal to 0, then I'll see out divides, else see out does not divide, and I'll just declare A equal to 3 and B equal to 6, let's say. Okay, I think Aditya didn't tell about the mod operator, right? So I'll just quickly mention about that as well. So this percentage symbol that you are seeing here, it basically gives the remainder when A divides B. So you can understand the expression B mod A as remainder when B is divided by A. So you can do this operation similar to like we do B times A, we do B divided by A. Similarly, there is this another operation, which is B mod A. You can pronounce it as that, which is giving reminder when B is divided by A. So we'll use this operation to figure out if A is dividing B. And if I run this code, yeah, the output is divides, as you can see here, which is correct. Let me just show one example where it is wrong. So if I put 10 and 3, then it will output does not divide. So I hope this is fine. This is how we check if two numbers are dividing each other or not. So now our code becomes like this. You start at 2. This is the initializing expression. Then condition is you have to go till n minus 1. So I'll keep running this loop till I reaches n minus 1. And in each iteration, I'll set I equal to I plus 1. And I have to take an n as well. So for example, let's start with 10. So this is the initialization, the test expression, and the update expression of the loop. And body, I'll have to check if I divides n or not. So that I just explained you how to check. If n mod I equal to 0, then right now let's just say I just see out I. So I'll get all the divisors of 10. If I run this code, then I'll get all the divisors of 10, which are 2 and 5. And even if let's say I put some random number, then I run this, then I'll get all the divisors of that number. There are this 4. You can verify it will be correct. So now, can anyone tell me how do I check if it's a prime or not? Except Alex. Anyone else can? You have this much information that you can figure out if a number is dividing n or not, and you can just see how many numbers are dividing n. So can anyone tell me what change you would like to make in this for loop, or what will you change to see if it's a prime? Check if I equal to n. I didn't actually understand this. Can you unmute and say what you mean by this?
Yeah, so if
Hmm.
if the number is not prime, then it will come out of the loop. And after coming out of the loop, the value of I will be n. So that's why I'm telling that if not prime
Okay,
is,
it won't come out of the loop. It will come out of the loop always when I equal to n. This condition ensures that as long as it's less than n minus 1, it will run, and whenever it becomes n, it will come out of the loop. So it will always be n, even if it's prime or not prime.
yeah,
It will
yeah.
always be.
So after coming out of the loop, we can check if the value of I is equal to n. That is, if nothing is printed before, so we can print prime number.
Okay. But what I'm saying is it will always be n. So for example, in this case, I say if this is what you are claiming, and if I run this for this number, which we know is not a prime, do you Okay. Yeah, I'll have to tackle one more issue first before that, which is I can't use here. I can only use inside for loop if I declare it here. But there is a way to bypass this, which is declare I outside loop and keep this empty. So like this is a nice point to bring out. You can actually leave out the initialization part in for loop and mention it at the top. And now I can use here as well. So this is another one of those things that like the more deep you go, you will realize that you can do more other stuff as well. So this is one more thing which you can do with for loops. And if I run this just to show you that prime will be outputted, you can see the prime is outputted here, right? So even though it's not a prime, it is outputting prime. So this condition won't actually work. But something else that another person suggested, count the number of devices, that will work. So for that, I'll just put it back where it came from, and I'll just make another variable count. And rather than printing the divisor whenever it divides, I'll just make count plus plus count equal to count plus 1. So as I explained, I equal to I plus 1, it will increase the count. And like the shortcut for this to do is count plus plus. If you write count plus plus, it will expand to count equal to count plus 1. So I can try this as well. It will do same thing. And what will be the condition here for primality? What should be the value of count for it to be a prime? So count basically stores number of devices, right? Whenever it was dividing, we were earlier outputting them, but now I'm just increasing count variable. So count is storing how many divisors are there for the number n, and n will be prime when count stores. So Siddhi suggested this. So yeah, Tanmay has the correct answer. If count is 0, then it means the number is prime because we found no divisors. Else I'll see how it compose it. And this shows a nice use of variables because you can make a variable from like after thinking what you want to do. So first we just printed all the devices, but then we realized we should actually count how many devices are there. So then you can just create a variable for it. There is no limit on variables. You can just create a variable for whatever you want to store and update it accordingly, and then use whenever you want to use it afterwards. So this will work for any number. Give me some n. Any suggestions for n? First, I'll try 7. Till then, you guys can put in your suggestion in chat. So 7 is a prime. We all know it. Should be a prime. Yeah, output is prime. And yeah, this people want flag solution as well. I'll mention that as well. So what they mean by flag is currently I'm storing count, right? Do I actually need to count how many devices are there to figure out if it's prime or not? The thing is, I don't need to count all the devices. Even if there is one divisor, even if I found one divisor, I'll know that the number is not a prime. So for that, you can use a Boolean data type, which can be either true or false, initialized as false. And whenever you find a divisor, I'll make it true. And in the end, you can just check if flag is equal to true. If it's true, then it will be composite. So I'll just check if flag is equal to false. Because if it's composite, then there is a divisor existing and it will change flag to be true. So in the end, if flag is found to be false, then it means it's still a prime, else it's a composite. So this solution is clear, right? And how you can use the flag as well, and how you can count the number of devices as well. Both things you can do and figure out the prime. Okay, yeah.
Can we give like if flag is equal to inside for loop?
Yes. You want to do if flag
equal to false. The same code is inside for loop.
Acha, then it will output. Okay. So for example, I'll put this inside loop and I'll run it for n equal to, let me think, 9. Okay. So what do you think will happen? Alex, what do you think will happen? Like, you got this question right now. Try to see what will happen when I run this. Just think about it. Yeah, always whenever you want to try out this new thing, sure, you can try out, but like try to think what will happen so that you can understand when it happens, like, oh, that's why this happened. So
For each
right,
number, it will print like
yeah,
for
yeah. So
each number, multiple composites
yes,
and multiple prime.
yes, but in a pattern. So for example, first prime came because 2 when I was equal to 2 and 9 is not divisible by 2, right? So flag remained false and it outputted prime. In second iteration, when I became 3, 9 is divisible by 3 and the flag became true. And once flag becomes true, it will stay true forever. So that's why it outputted composite, composite, composite. All. So it will, till it comes to its smallest divisor, it will print prime, prime, prime. After that, composite, composite, composite. But if you put it outside loop, then it's for sure going to give you prime or composite, depending on the type of number. So I think this, yes, this is also a good suggestion. You need to check only till I times I is less than equal to n, because you might have known that prime number check you only need to do from 2 till square root of n, because if you don't find anything, any divisor from 2 to square root of n, then there shouldn't be any from square root n to n, because if there is example or divisor y in square root n to n, then n by y is also divisor, which will lead you to 2 to square root of n. So like you can do this to optimize code. And I think I'll like to move on now because we are getting a bit late. But okay, yeah, you're checking till root and yeah, works. So yeah, this was the code that I had written. I had used prime as a flag, which I just showed you. And now let's move on to arrays first. If there is time, then I'll cover the while loop. Else you can check. It's very similar to for loop. You can see the flow diagram of it. But like, let me explain arrays first. Arrays is important. So let me present the screen. Yeah. So we learned about variables. Now let's try to apply it to a real world application. We have class of 50 people and we have given the marks of all the 50 people. And we are supposed to do some process on them, like figure out percentage of them or who has the highest marks or anything. So from our current knowledge, the only option is to make 50 variables, mark 1 to mark 1, mark 2, mark 3, mark 50, and then any operation will look like this. You'll have to manually write the 50 lines. Yeah, someone has any doubts? Yeah, I don't think so. So this is actually very tedious. Like size is 50 here limited. When there are 1,000 people, how will you do this? So obviously there is a better way for it. And the answer is arrays. So array you can imagine as a list. So in Python there is lists, right? In C++ you can say that there are arrays, and arrays store multiple elements of same data type. For example, this array which I have shown in the diagram is storing all the integers, and the declaration of arrays is similar to the variable declaration, except this. So the declaration will be data type, then array name, and then there will be a size in the square bracket. So I'll do it similar to what Aditya is done. So syntax for arrays is data type, then array name, put it here. And after array name, you need array size in square bracket. So this is just declaration. You'll have to learn this. There is no other option than this. So in example, I'll show you is int marks and let's say size 50. And another example that I can show you is character array, which can store grade of, let's say, size 100. So I hope declaration should be clear. It's very similar to the normal variable, just that you need to put the size of the array in the square brackets. Now, coming to the value storing part, how it stores and how you can access the elements. So for that, you can access element using square bracket, similar to how you declared name and then square bracket. So if I try to access any element here, for example, let's say I do marks of 1, then currently I'm pointing to an element in this marks array, specifically at index 1. I'm pointing to index 1 and I can set index 1 marks to be 93. Now treat this marks and then index 1 as a normal integer variable. After you assigned value or after you created the array, this becomes like a normal integer variable. Whatever you could do with any integer variable, you can do here. You can output marks of 1. If I run this, it will output 93. Yeah, you can see it outputs 93. You can output marks of 100 times 34, anything. This marks and square bracket 1 basically becomes a normal integer variable. So the way you can access elements in this array is using name and square bracket. But one important thing is indexing. So I use the word here that this is index 1. And indexing starts from 0 and not 1. And this the reason you will understand later completely. But if I tell you simply, you can understand that A is actually pointing to this first element, and whatever you put in square bracket, it will go to that element. So 0, it will stay at 2. If you put 1 in square bracket, it will go 1 right. If you put 2, it will go 2 right, and similar to. So indexing is from 0, and all the elements you can access with name and square bracket. So any problem in accessing, how will you access the array element? If I give you some question, let's say there is an array named B and I want to access 4th element. How will you access it? Just put in chat. Array name is B and I want to access 4th element. So anyone can put in chat or raise your hand. Yeah, this is actually correct. So if it's not again clear to you, whenever I want to access any element in the array, the accessing will go name and then square bracket index. And the catch is index are from 0 and not from 1. So 2 is kind of 0th element, 5 is first element, but in real life, we'll most likely use first index. So the 4th element is 4, but array accessing, you have to use 3. So that's the catch. Just whenever you want to use 4th element, you have to put square bracket 3. Just keep that in mind. And this is how you can declare the array and use each element in the array. But how is it useful than the previous version? Like in this version, I was using like this, and now it's even worse. I have to put square bracket around all this. So where is the usefulness? The usefulness comes with for loops. So this, for example, if I just copy this code and put it here and make it look nicer. So this, you can actually use indexes inside for loops with any other variable. So if I can do a of 3 equal to, let's say 4, then I can make an element, make a variable int index, let's say pointed to 3, and I can do a of index equal to 3. So this is also allowed. Here you don't need a constant. You can also keep a variable which is storing some another integer. So this becomes very useful because we can do something like this. Take a for loop, start at 0, go till 5, and input array element here. And after this, you can write a similar for loop. Again, I++ is just shortcut of I equal to I+1. So don't get troubled by that. And then you can see out this. So I'll just show you by giving some input. So let me keep it simple first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll give it input. And you can see the output is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of this got stored in the array, whichever I give input, and finally I outputted it. So now converting to percentage code, for example, this code will look like a of I equal to a of I times 100, and I can divide by total. Currently total doesn't exist, but okay, let's say total was 600. So converting everything into percentage, I can just do in one for loop. I just have to write code for a of I and it will apply to each element in the array. So this is the power of arrays. You don't have to keep writing the repeated code, but you can use the loops to make it efficient and make the code small and iterate through all the elements in the array and update the values accordingly. So for example, this is the code to figure out the maximum element in the array. And I don't think there is enough time to go through this. I'll add the explanation in the slide and the slide will be shared to you. But you can see that arrays are very powerful. In this scenario, if you wanted to find maximum of this 50 values, it will be very big if else ladder. If marks 1 greater than marks 2 and compare, that will be very big, but using arrays and loops, you can reduce it to this much code. I'll add the explanation here, and this is the use of array. And now I'll like to come to final topic, which is sorting. So let me copy this. Okay, so first I'll explain what sorting actually is. Sorting is basically arranging the elements in the array in increasing or decreasing order. So for example, if I declare a smaller array, marks of 5, and if I sort the array, afterwards I can see out the array. See out mark of I. So if I just show you what sorting does, I'll output marks in random order. And this is the final sorted marks. So what you can see is this line, the sorting line, arrange the elements in such a way that they are in increasing order. So 13 came first, then 28, then 46, then 75, and then 97. So if I put like the exact opposite 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then you can see it sorts it. And this is actually very useful in real life as well. For example, you want to rank the students. You have marks and now you want to rank. So you'll like to sort the marks and figure out which is the highest mark, which is the lowest mark, and according to that. So syntax for that is, this is the syntax. You write sort, and then in parenthesis, you have to write array name as a first argument, and then you do comma, and then you put array name plus array size. So this is again syntax, and don't go in deep into this, like why does this work? Why don't any other things work? This is the way that C++ writers decided for it to work. They could have chose a completely different way, but they decided to make it make syntax this way. So you have to remember this and you have to apply this only. And this there is also another thing which you can do is not just sort complete array, but some part of it. So if I want to sort just some part of the array, specifically from index L to index R minus 1, then this is the syntax to use. So if I put 0 and 3 here, take this output after doing this. So what I'm doing currently is I'm taking the marks array and I'm sorting from only index 0 till index 2. So if I give 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 again, then it will sort only the first 3 index 0 to index 2. So again, this is a syntax of this function. Like I would recommend you to just memorize it. There is no deeper explanation that I can give right now. You just have to memorize how to sort a specific segment or the complete array. So this was the sorting function. Any doubt in sorting, what kind of syntax we use or anything like that? I think it should be fine. Sorting wasn't complicated. Yeah, so any doubt in everything that I taught? I think this section ends now. So if you have any doubt in for loop or array, then you can just ask.
It will sort till index 3 or index 2?
Index 2. Yeah, so this sorts from index L to index minus. That's why this parenthesis is the notation. How to sort in descending order. Yeah, I would suggest you to search this on net. One thing I would emphasize on is learning by yourself. So whenever you have any question, for example, Shivam currently had the question how to sort in decreasing order. Just search on Google and see. You'll get, because there will be many other questions that you'll be getting, and all of them we definitely can't cover in one session or one PDF because there are very big websites covering everything. So whenever you have any question, just try to Google search it. If you don't understand, then there are WhatsApp groups. We have made 2 WhatsApp groups. You can ask the doubt anytime. You can ask the doubt in MS Teams as well, the Teams channels that are there. But first try finding out yourself if you can figure out or not. So, yeah, I think we'll end this section now, and Aditya, you can take on the CP part.
Yeah. Before that, like guys, you can take a short 3 to 4 minute break. If you wanna grab something to eat or just take a small break and walk around, yeah, sure you can do that. In 3 to 4 minutes, we'll be starting with the CP section. What is CP? What is its relevance in general life and how it benefits you? And we'll also have a few very successful competitive examiners talk about their CP experience and how it has helped them in their lives and in their academics. Yeah, so I'll see you at 3:50 p.m.
Yeah.
We'll share all slides, so the slides, recording of the session, and we'll also be sharing a short quiz with you guys. We'll do all the 3 like a few minutes after the sessions are over. So a couple of words regarding the quiz. So we'll be sharing both the slides, recording, and quiz. So if you have any doubts right now or you want to look at something later, you can do that. And this quiz that we send, it will be on the Google form, but it's not something like a test, right? It's just a set of questions that we are giving you to for yourself to check how well you have understood from the session. So you can feel free to refer to the slides or look up stuff when you're attending the quiz. And the scores of the quiz will be used nowhere. We are not going to use the scores anywhere. It is almost like an anonymous thing. So you can attempt it how many other times you want. You can refer to anything that you want, and the quiz scores have no meaning. So use the quiz as in the best way you can to ensure you've understood what you've learned in the session. And some things might be there which are not covered in the session, which are in the slides, or sometimes may not even be in the slides. In that case, feel free to search up about what it is, learn about it, and understand it. Right. The whole point of the quiz is to ensure that you guys understand what is present in the quiz. And yes, again, mentioning that the scores don't mean anything at all. And feel free to check out slides and look at the topics present there.
Yeah, so we'll start back at 3:50.
Okay, yeah. Then I will be continuing the same way. So, yep, I'll get to the content. Yeah. So now, the first part of the session was just a brief part about C++ for those who are getting started. So now we'll go into what competitive programming is. So what is CP and why do people do CP? So competitive programming is a mind sport where you generally implement solutions for very interesting math and logic based problems. So right now in the first half of the session, we just covered a tool to implement such solutions, which is coding. So coding will mainly just be a tool for competitive programming and won't be the main focus. While you do need to learn a lot of data structures and get to know algorithms, the core part of CP is logic and getting to using the right algorithms, the right questions, and having a good idea of why that works in those questions. So, what is the benefit of doing CP? Doing CP boosts your problem solving skills and your logical thinking because it's like you're continuously doing a lot of very interesting logic testing problems. So you'll think a lot, you'll get to a solution, and for some problems you won't get a solution, and you'll learn from the solution given by the problem author. So that way, over the long run, you get to learn a lot along the way, and you also get to improve your coding skills and learn a lot of concepts along the way. So that is the benefit that competitive programming gives to you as an. But generally, I would say is people do CP not because it boosts your problem solving skills or because you get to learn everything faster or something. It is because it's like CP is like a sport, right? So given a sport and given people who are playing that sport, if you're interested in the sport, you'll want to take part in it, you'll want to get better at it, and you'll enjoy the whole process, right? So that is the main reason why we in the programming club do CP. It is because it's fun, right? It's like you're given a challenge in front of you, and you have to solve that challenge faster than most people and more efficiently than most people. So that challenge brings a lot of skill along with it, and you thinking hard about a problem, thinking for maybe sometimes hours or days together, maybe even discussing with your friends, and finally working a solution. And after that, 100 lines of code, there are like 1,000 bugs in it. And after that, finally, when you write a proper code and you submit it, and when that code gets accepted as a correct solution, that feeling of happiness is something that even the best coders in the world enjoy a lot. For example, ICPC is like the biggest competitive programming contest for college level students. So when you see in the ICPC finals, when in ICPC finals they display the contest leaderboard live. So everyone giving the contest will see the contest leaderboard on a big TV. So when a team the first solve, so when the first team to solve the problem, they actually jump and shout out happily. So it's that much happiness that you get when you're the first to solve a problem, you solve a problem after working a lot. So you'll have that frustration when you're coding. You'll be like, I don't know where the bug is, man. Like the code looks correct only. I think compiler is having an issue. But beyond all that, once you solve the problem, that happiness that you get is actually really good. So that feeling of fun, that feeling of happiness is a goal for which that goal itself you can do competitive programming. It is gives you that much happiness. So apart from that, CP does have a lot of academic benefits as well. So CP helps a lot in internships and placements because the coding interviews of a lot of major companies, so they call it DSA test or coding test. So in that, a lot of problems are you could say derived from standard CP problems or derived from standard algorithms that you would have studied when you do CP, or some data structures that you come to when you're doing CP. When you do CP, you tend to learn a lot along the way to improve. So during that thing, you get to learn a lot of concepts as well. And it is these concepts that are asked in coding interviews and stuff. So doing CP not only gives you this competitive thing, but also it helps you prepare for interviews as well. And it's something that happens in the long run, right? So you may be doing CP for 2 years, but over those 2 years, you would have learned a lot of things, and that knowledge is something that you can't easily get just by doing 1 month of coding. So doing it over the long run consistently is something that CP helps you do. So that's about what is CP and why CP. But again, I am, rather than me telling you that it is for intentional placements, we have some, yeah. Someone asking, is it by mistake mic unmute? I think it is. I'll mute you, Sai Krishna. So if you have any queries, just put in chat. Do you have anything? Okay, he's unmuted. So yeah, so rather than me convincing you about this, we do have some people, to talk about that. But before that, I'll just cover a few aspects. So where can you do competitive programming? There are a lot of CP platforms, but two of the most used in India. One is Codeforces. So this is one of the best platforms for competitive programming, and I guess most of you might have even gone through Codeforces when you registered for the Codeforces group. And there's also CodeChef. CodeChef is like the Indian version of Codeforces, while Codeforces is actually managed by a Russian person. So Codeforces has a lot of international participation as well, while CodeChef is largely Indian. But still, both of them are really good platforms when you want to get started with Codeforces. So in this workshop or summer camp, we'll be working with Codeforces. Okay, I get your editor here. So for CP contest, there are multiple that are being held globally. So Google holds 3 series every year: Hashcode, CodeJam, and Kickstart. Facebook, so now is Meta. They hold Meta Hacker Cup every year. For the high school students, you have the International Olympiad of Informatics, and for college students, you have the ICPC. So these are like very acclaimed contests that a lot of people give throughout the world. So that much, importance and interest for CP all over the world. So yeah, now I'll hand it over to Mantra, who will be, taking you through some of the competitive programmers from IIT Madras, where they'll be sharing their experiences, and some of the questions that you guys had mentioned in the Google form, those will be taken up as well. Over to Mantra.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so first person that we will have is Arnhav. He is the 2 years senior than me, and this time he's going for his master's in CMU. So and he is master in Codeforces as well with max rating 2164. So I would like to invite Arnav to share his CP journey, and then I'll share some of the questions that people had.
Sure. So I kind of like started CP in like my first year, like in my second semester roughly. So I kind of like started it because like a lot of my friends were also doing it. Like, it was just like a fun activity at that point. It wasn't really geared towards anything. I mean, like we weren't really. It was kind of like how you play cricket with your friends. It was something like that. So it wasn't really ever with any kind of goal in mind. So yeah, we did try to like do good in competitions such as ICPC or Google Code Jam, but like there was no realistic reason why we were doing it at the point. But when I was in my end of my second year, when I was in the summer, like my seniors kind of like told me that this activity is actually also very important and like very useful for interns. And they also told me that since you have a very good rating, you should be able to like crack a lot of companies. And that I would say did happen. And I think that happened for two reasons. One is that competitive programming kind of like gave me first of all, computer programming gave me the necessary skills in like data structures and algorithms, which are super important for most companies. That I would say it's almost certainly important for like the top tech product companies, and it is also important for like other smaller companies as well. So computer programming gave me the specific data structure and algorithm practice, and it also gave me a variety of skills which I don't even think other things can even give you, such as it gave me the ability to think very quickly on my feet, because competitive programming is, for example, a timed event wherein like in 2 hours you have to come up with the solution. And it also gave me the ability to quickly think on my feet. And I think these things even helped me to like get internships at financial companies, which did not actually ask anything at in competitive programming or in algorithms. But since their questions were more on logic, math, and these kind of things, it even helped me there because like all these firms required was the fact that you have a good grasp of probability and that you can think reasonably. And with because of this, for example, I got internships at Google, D Shaw, and Jane Street during my internships, and I also got placed in like Rubrik, DaVinci, and Quantbox during the placement season. And I would say that one thing was that like I kind of like stayed with CP throughout. If you see even my code forces graph, I mean there are some places where I have kind of like stopped doing it for a few months because of academic pressure. But like I even after placements are over, like they ended in sometime in December, I kind of like still had free time after that, so I actually still continued to do it. Like I was kind of like I can because like for me it was never really about getting the placements or anything. It was more about the fun of CP.
Yeah, yeah, that's very nice. So I'll just quickly go through the questions that these people put in the Google form. So
Sure.
yeah, one of the question is how many hours do you dedicate in a day to CP?
Oh, so like this used to vary. Like so initially I used to like give almost every contest that used to come on Code Forces, and like I used to give like a few. Like I used to like if there were like week like there are some periods of time in Code Forces there are no contests. So at those times I used to like practice a bit. So I would say on average maybe like 1.5 hour a day in my earlier years. I would say in the first 2 years, and then it kind of like went to like say 1 hour a day probably. That would be, but it wasn't a lot. Like as I would say, yeah, it's not like this is a very big time, I would say.
Yeah. So whenever there is contest, like it will be 2 hours a day, but on some day
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
but you
busy,
don't
it
give
can
contests every day,
multiple.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So when there is no contest, it's like you can take some time off. So it's not
Yeah.
perfectly like you should do this, but it varies. One more thing is how to manage study and competitive programming. So
Um.
anything on this?
So one thing is that like as I said, it's like 1 hour is like I mean
Mm.
it's a fairly small time in the day, I would say. But like if you want to spend more time in competitive programming, I would say that like quite a lot of people I know, like a few people in IIT Bombay, for example, they kind of like to prepare for the ICPC, they kind of like, for example, once they almost spent the entire winter just doing competitive programming. Like one person invited the two of them to stay with them for the entirety of the summer, and like they practiced there together, three of them, for example, and every day they like spent like 5 or 6 hours doing this thing. But I mean that's just like one extreme. But my point is that if you see, like what my point was that during the semester they did not have enough time for all three of them to sit together. But they then found a way to like in the winters when they were all free in their vacations, they did sit together and they spent a lot of time in doing competitive programming. So yeah, that's kind of like what I would say. But like I mean, I wouldn't say that unless you're working too hard, it's really difficult to even come up with like 1 hour a day. I mean, yeah, it's fine. And like if not, like do as much as you want.
Okay. One more
Um,
question we got in chat is, can non-CS students do CP?
I would say non-CS students require. I mean, if the if first of all, like non-CS students, like CS students is not like really one particular. Like CS students don't really have a particular affinity towards competitive programming. It's just that like we are taught algorithms in our coursework, so that, and that's just one course, by the way. The rest of the courses in computer science, I would say, are almost completely unrelated to competitive programming. So I would say that that is one thing. So therefore I would say that anyone in the insti can do CP, because like as I said, I started in my first year second semester, so by that time we weren't even taught yeah, anything in algorithms. Like algorithms are proper course comes in the 4th semester. So by the 3rd semester, I think I had reached candidate master. So that's a fairly high rating to reach. And this was without any particular teaching of algorithms. So definitely, I would say non-CS students can do CP. And actually, if you are doing CP with the goal of cracking software jobs or anything like that, I think non-CS students actually need to do CP even more than CS students. So yeah, that's what I would say about regarding that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take one more question and then we'll move on. So, is there any standard procedure to attempt a problem in CP?
So what I kind of like used to do at least was that like I did the problem, did the questions in the problem, did the questions in the contest, and like I kind of like always tried to do the one harder question which I wasn't able to do in the contest. So with that, what happens is that you continuously keep on improving in every contest. So basically, initially, for example, when I started off, I could only do like A, B, and C was a 50-50 thing. So that's where I started off from. But with time, I mean, I was able to do C and D, and now I sometimes I'm able to do the E question in code forces, which is kind of like hard, but like I'm 50-50 able to. So basically, a thing is that if you practice on code forces, a very beautiful thing about code forces is that every single problem has an editorial. You can also see the solution written by anyone after the contest, of course. In between the contest, not make sense. But after the contest, you can see anyone's solution in the world. So that's you can always learn how to solve that new question. And first of all, like I always used to try it even after like, so basically if I am not able to do D, I used to try it for even half an hour more after the contest, even if the contest time is over. Like doesn't matter, you can still keep trying it for like half an hour more or something like that, and then see the solution like in text and then try to implement it on your own. That still builds that muscle memory. So this is like an enough strategy to like this is a good enough strategy to like build yourself, and I think it works for anyone. Like it works for a complete noob to someone other than tourist. Yeah.
Yeah. So tourist is the top rated guy in code
Yeah.
forces. Okay, now thank you for taking your time
No problem.
and joining us. Okay, now I would like to move on to Raghu Raman, who also is one of the 2-year senior of mine, and his code forces profile is number theory is love, and he's a candidate master with highest rating 2092. So Raghuram Bhaiya, can you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, so can you
Okay.
share about your CP journey?
Right. So, like, guys, I'll just quickly introduce myself. As I told, I'm 2 years senior, so senior to him, and I'm just completing my BTech CSC at IITM. And I was first introduced to CP in my first year, actually, and it was actually through the programming club. Like, initially, all the clubs of C5 they conduct a beginner session on what their club is about, and I was just going through all the clubs, and I was introduced to the programming club and what they do. And like the first session, which I remember was like they gave a bunch of problems, and they told us to come up with solutions to this, right? And it was the thing I like most about it was that I didn't know that this was what CP is at the time, but like this felt a lot like solving puzzles, right? And I was like really interested in that sort of stuff, and especially it's like some form of mathematical puzzles, right? It was really interesting to me at the time, and then later I got introduced to the club and I learned what CP is, and through my seniors also like encouraged me to do CP, and yeah, and my journey started there, and I attended programming club sessions, and I did regular contests, and yeah, it went on like that for a while, and like actually in my first year I was really looking forward to doing every single contest in code process, right? Like I would just I would just want to improve my rating in code process and try to let's say beat my peers. And we had like I think that is also one of the more important things when it comes to, let's say, like going up in CPU. One important thing is to have like a healthy competitive peer group, right? Like just a bunch of people who you can interact with, and you can like say like you can have yeah, you just to develop that feeling of competitiveness between you. Like it shouldn't like get very toxic or something, but just like it should be like a healthy competition between some people. And I feel like that would really give a boost to your CP journey overall. And so yeah, I was doing CP regularly for let's say till my interns and placements. And coming to how exactly CP might help you, or I'll explain how it helped me. So one aspect is, of course, like it really develops your like critical thinking skills, I would say, and other problem solving skills. And this is not something which is I mean, you might underestimate the skills that you get at this time, but I would say that these are very useful, and it was useful to me actually even in some other courses and even in my intern. And see, the thing is, like, I learned a lot of CP only in C++, and I didn't know any other programming language for a long time, right? And later when I started coding in other programming languages, I like found that the skills that you learn in CP is easily transferable to other languages also, and it also applies to a lot of other use cases rather than just like being a like a sport, right? Like as Aditya mentioned a while back. Like, so yeah, I'll just come back to this a while later. So as far as my intern is concerned, like I was aiming to get a software role, and uh, like literally every company that I sat for had a coding round, and it was a CP competition. And like yeah, there were also a few other, like I think logic based like first round that some other companies conducted, but like virtually all the companies that I sat for had a coding round, and that's how they filter people, right? And even in the interviews, many of the companies actually give a CP problem and ask you to like go through your thought process how you would solve this problem, right? So you can see like this CP acts like a really good uh, like a way for the interviews to gauge how you think basically. So this is not just like you have some problem, you solve it and you get the answer and you show it to them, but like uh, how you approach the problem and solve it actually reveals a lot about like how good of a thinker you are. And that is why actually many interviewers actually ask you to solve CP problems, and they tell you to like explain your thinking process at the time, right? So yeah, like this is how it happened. Like I had 2 or 3 rounds, and I got an intern at Microsoft, right? And yeah, coming back to the previous point, in Microsoft when I did my intern, and I was coding in another language, right, JavaScript, and like the use case was completely different. But still, in some places, I felt that my CP knowledge came to use, and I was able to let's say understand what I had to do at that place better, and I was able to apply my CP skills to solve problems in my intern also. But right, I'm not saying like my intern was completely based on CP, but like I'm just saying that the skills I occurred using the skills I accumulated using CP like helped me a lot in my intern, right? Uh, yeah, and yeah, I guess that's more or less it. Like yeah, that would be it, I guess.
Okay, so again, I'll just quickly take some of the questions from this form. So, as a beginner, what should we keep in mind while starting the CP journey?
Yeah, the one thing is
What
that
kind of goal should be in their mind? So,
yeah, like the first thing you have to understand about CP is that it's like about constant practice, right? Like it's not really possible to become an expert in like 1 or 2 months even. Like maybe in the worst case, 1 or 2 months before an intern, like you could manage to get some decent enough skills to get an intern. But like if you really want to get like the top interns or like top companies, or even if you want to become really good at CP in general, right? Just because you like to do CP, the number one thing is practice, right? Uh, just keep doing contests, right? Like actually, there is this one like silly thing that many people think about. Like if I do contest, like if I do badly, my rating would drop, and therefore they will just keep doing practice problems all over again. But I feel that you should simply not care about your rating in the beginning and just do contests instead of a lot of practice problems, right? I mean, if you want to do more stuff over your contest, you can do practice problem. But the thing is, doing a contest is like significantly like different from doing practice problems. Like you might think that it's the same, but actually the time constraint that you have in a contest plays a significant role on like how you choose to what problems you choose to solve first, like how much time you will spend in a problem, and like what methods you use to approach this problem, so right. So that actually plays a significant factor, and I would suggest that like see like in code forces it will barely have like 2 or 3 contests every week, and that's probably like 5 or 6 hour times that you're 5 or 6 hours that you're spending in CP. And I would say that if you do that constantly for like let's say 1 year, you'd become like really good in CP. And like at this point, I would like to share and say that like I personally didn't do many practice problems, I should say. Like I was just doing contests in Code Forces and CodeChef for like 1.5 years time, and I literally did no practice for interns, and I was still able to get a good intern. Because I would just say that that was because I did 1.5 years of contest regularly. Yeah. So yeah, as a beginner, I would say just practice and do contests. And like every time, like as Arnav mentioned, right? Like after every contest, like try to like maybe redo the questions that you were not able to do. I mean, like obviously you won't be able to do like the E or F questions, but like sometimes you might not be able to do like some medium level questions which you thought you would be able to do at the contest. Like try to redo them, or if you're stuck, like go through the editorials which are available. And one more thing is that when you try to redo these problems and look at, let's say, your friend's solution or some editorial, you might come across some concept or some like coding, like syntax, which might be new to you, right? Like Google and learn those. Like, that's how I basically learned many of the stuff that's there in C++, right? Like yeah, the programming club, there were sessions that the programming clubs will conduct, right? But like it won't be comprehensive of all the stuff that's there that you can use to do CP. And a lot of your CP journey is like you do it by yourself by just Googling and just looking up online resources.
Yeah, so we will share with the resources with you, and in session we'll explain you the topic, but we can't cover the full topic in 2 hours. There is so many things. So as Raghu bhaiya mentioned, like you should try to Google yourself when you can't understand something. Okay, thank you Raghu bhaiya for taking your time. We are a bit short, so won't be able to take any more questions. Yeah, so next we have another guest for you, and like you all should be aware of him. He's Vinit, and he's the Grandmaster on Code Forces currently. He recently became Grandmaster, and I think second in history of IITM. So it's actually a really great achievement. Vinit, are you here? Yeah. Hello.
Hello, Mantra. Thank you for the nice introduction.
Yeah, you can share your CP journey with us.
Yeah, sure. So, hi guys, I'm Vinit. I'm currently in 4th year at IIT Madras. I am also the ex-head at Programming Club. Um, hmm, So, I guess most of you are probably like starting your CP journey. At least I expect more than 50%. I'll try to explain my CP journey and like what could be the takeaways for you. So unlike my previous heads, like unlike the previous heads of programming club or the new heads of programming club, uh, I wasn't introduced to CP by programming club. Uh, like my journey in CP started by myself, and like initially in my first year, like we had some courses and based on programming, and like I wasn't able to catch them up well. Like I couldn't do that. I couldn't do well in them. I tried to learn it up a bit, but like I guess I couldn't. I just couldn't learn it up in my first year. After our first year, there was the COVID thing, and we all like had to come back. So at home, when I was in quarantine, there was very limited things you could do. So at that point, like some of my friends were doing CP, so I just started with them for fun. Like I wasn't very interested into programming. I used to think like why do people do programming and all that. I guess like most of us are people who don't do any program, like who haven't done any programming till 12th, and I was like that person, and I hadn't done much programming till my first year, end of my first year as well. But like uh I was introduced to CP with like I was doing CP along with my friends, and like uh I guess the nice part about CP which I felt was like it was just like solving problems and puzzles, while programming was just like a language to express your thoughts. So just like English or Hindi or whatever language you speak, I wasn't like doing programming. I was just using programming to solve problems. So the main part of CP was like solving problems, which is something which was very exciting for me. Like since my childhood, I have been like a bit crazy about solving problems. In like my school as well, I used to ask people a lot of puzzles and all. And like since my childhood, I was very excited about solving puzzles and problems and all. And like suddenly I found something in which you have to solve problems and like puzzles like that. And also you are losing like some language which probably like which might be important for you. So I guess that gave me the motivation to do CP. And like as I guess Raghu also mentioned, I had a really good peer group. So I was competing with them, and uh, the the competitive part of programming and the fun in problem solving is I guess what gave me a boost in the start of my competitive programming journey. I guess it continued like that for like some time, and like I was really excited about competitive programming. And like after like 6 months or so I came to know about like for 6 months I was just doing competitive programming because it was very fun. Like I really used to enjoy it a lot. Like I had no other reason, probably maybe just like learning some programming, but like my only reason of doing CP was that it was fun and I was enjoying it a lot. And like after some time, I also got to know it from my seniors that like CP would probably help you in your interns and placements, which is like something a lot of us look for as a student at IIT Madras. So I was like very like I was even more excited. Okay, there is something which is so fun, so exciting, and so enjoyable, and at the same time it's useful and important. So I was like very excited on one side, while I was also a bit sad that I could have probably started it in my early first year, which is when I decided that I probably not want any other student in IITM to have this. So like at that point, I started to teach competitive programming to people. Like I started with some juniors of mine, and we tried to extend it with time. So I guess it's roughly been around 2 years from that time when I was like a bit furious about why CP is not so developed. And now I guess the culture in CP is much more developed in IIT Madras. I guess probably a lot more people know about CP. Um, yeah, I guess maybe it might not like you guys would have like a better exposure to CP, but I guess probably in my year there wasn't that much like exposure to CP in IIT Madras in general. like I'm quite happy now. Like you guys are here trying to learn CP, and probably a lot more people in IIT Madras know about CP. So I guess we are going in the right direction. But yeah, like at that time there wasn't much. I taught it, and like I was like this was basically my plan to like continue it and like spread the culture. My my motivation was that if there is something which is enjoyable and important, there is no reason for it like for me to not spread it. So that's what I continued for. And yep, I guess like after that I joined into programming club and continued from there. Um, I guess that was the start of my competitive programming. Like after like 1 year or so, I was really good in competitive programming, but like there was like some point at which I could probably stop doing competitive programming as well, and like I won't benefit a lot from it. But like I guess even after that point and even right now, I keep on doing competitive programming because again it's fun and like I have friends who are doing it, so it's sort of exciting in that way, and it also develops your like problem solving and thinking skills. So I guess I just enjoy it, and I think it's like sort of helping me to like develop my problem solving skills. So I keep on doing it. But I guess that's how I would summarize my CP journey.
Yeah, that is very nice. If you guys have any doubts, then you can ask right now or put in chat. We are a bit out of time, so I won't be able to take from the sheet. If you have any doubts, then just speak up or put in chat.
I guess there is one thing which I actually want to express. So like I guess we talked a lot about like doing contests and like solving problems and all. I guess for majority of the people who are have or attending this meet right now or who will be watching the recording, I guess for most of you, the biggest thing right now should be that you promise yourself and uh, you like you can focus on CP consistently. I guess most of the people sort of lack in this to uh, take up CP consistently. I guess we sort of have this from like last year as well that a lot of people do start up, but eventually they sort of procrastinate and not able to like come like can do it consistently. I guess CP is definitely something you should do more out of fun and enjoyment rather than anything else. So I guess you can definitely try it out for like 10 days, 15 days. If you think you aren't enjoying it that much, you can probably leave it up, that's fine. But I guess definitely CP is worth something that you should spend like 2 weeks or 3 weeks and try out if you like it or not. Because like if you are enjoying it, definitely CP would be something that would like become a really big part of your life, like it is for me. So just try out CP for 2-3 weeks. Try to be consistent with whatever tasks you are given with, or like whatever you are meant to do. Just try to do that. I guess after 2-3 weeks, you can take it up to you and decide if you're enjoying it or not, or if you want to continue it or not. But I guess for most of the people, they just are like not able to do it up in the initial phase, which is why they sort of like are not able to continue. I would say take it up for 2 weeks, see how it works for you. Are you able to enjoy it or not? And based on that, you can continue. We can sort of say that like see, if you enjoy problem solving and if you think you like solving problems in general, you will definitely enjoy competitive programming a lot. So I guess my biggest like suggestion for you guys would be to try to be consistent in competitive programming and like try to do the task whatever you're given right now. I guess probably the summer school would be a bit hectic for you. I'm not sure how many like baskets you guys would have filled, but yeah, probably irrespective of that, you would be able to cover up the task you are given because you have like 1 day break in between. So just try to do up the task that you are given. Try to focus on that. Make that as your priority for now. And like if you get time, you can try to do more problems. So I guess that should be like a really good start for you guys. After 10 to 15 days, you probably have a really good idea yourself of what competitive programming is. And yep, I guess that should be like the main suggestion for most of the people. If you are like someone who is already doing competitive programming and you think you are enjoying it, I guess for you guys, what Raghu and Arnhav said would sort of makes more sense, because like you should give contests more regularly and try to upsolve them and try to solve them more. But I guess for majority, the main thing would be to like try to do the task and like complete the task on time, and maybe sort of like you can do more problems from your side. So you can definitely ask on groups and all if you want to do more problems. But yeah, I guess most important thing would be to complete your tasks, what you are given with.
Yeah, one question is, if you want to restart from beginning, then how would you start?
I guess summer school is the best thing for you, right? Like if you want to start from beginning, I'm assuming that you want to start from learning C++, then I guess summer school is the best you can like you start with learning C++, which I guess was the session today. And you probably have the content to like start from basics and go on to like a decently advanced level in CP. So I guess summer school is a really good point for you to start if you're trying to restart. And if you're someone who like has a decent knowledge of programming and like knows a lot of topics in CP already, and by restart you meant you want to continue your like start your journey again, I guess you can just start by solving problems. As Raghu said, like you should not focus much on your rating initially. I guess for an year or so, or maybe like 6 months, you can just forget about your rating and try to do more problems and like try to do more contests. I guess contests are sort of like uh, very attractive in that manner key. You get a rank and you get a rating, so you're sort of more motivated to give and do better every time. So I guess if you probably not do contest and start like just to do problems, you might not be able to do it up very consistently because you don't have a motivation or something. Well, if you give contest and you have a good peer group, I guess that peer motivation and like that excitement to get higher rating and rank motivates you to give more and more contest, which is probably why I have been able to do competitive programming for like 2.5 years. So I guess if you're just starting up from basics, summer school is the best thing for you. Just ensure that you're able to do it up consistently and you're able to do all the problems. And if you have like a decent knowledge, I guess doing as many contests as you can should be a really nice thing. Like not just doing contests, but solving them as well. So I guess that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I don't think there were any more doubts in chat, and we are ahead of time. So thank you, Vinit, for attending the session and sharing your journey.
Thank you, Mantra. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so now, as we have said earlier, there are problem sets that you will get after each session, and there is also a quiz. So time complexity, yeah, there is a session on it, so don't worry about that. Uh, in chat, we will soon release the quiz. And again, as Aditya has mentioned, don't take this quiz marks as like grading. We are trying to grade you. It's just so that you can practice what we taught you and learn more about this, get to know some new thing which maybe you can Google search and know more. And another important thing is the problem set. So the problem set are going to be released in the Code Forces group. So all of you should have joined the Code Forces group, Summer Programming Camp 2022. And currently you can see problem set 1 released as well. So what you can do is just click enter and you'll be able to see. Someone, do you have any doubts? Yeah, I think that was by mistake. Yeah, so here you can see 5 problems are there in PS1. So what you can do is just click on problem and solve. So this process, we are going to release a video on Code Forces. Basically, if you are new to Code Forces, then we'll explain in this video how you can submit this problem and what everything denotes. But most of people know, that's why we are not keeping it in the session. So if you don't know, then you can just check. And after you solve some problem, for example, you solved. Okay. Yeah, do you have any doubts? I think-
2GB. 2GB.
uh, do you have any doubts or Are you unmuted by mistake? C21B063. Okay, I think by mistake. So if you solve, for example, 3 problems here, then we are actually going to release a sheet to keep track of what you have solved. And this you can see we have divided you by names. So for example, if you are some, let's say Abhigyan, then you come here at PS1 and you mention all the problems that you have solved. If you solved ABC, just mention ABC and this total will update automatically. So we'll be able to keep track of, and you will be able to keep track of how much you have solved and compare what other people have solved. So again, as seniors have mentioned, the competitive part is also really important. So this sheet we'll share with you. You can find your name in one of those subsheet and mention your submissions, whatever problems you have done here. So this is it for the session. If you have any doubts, then you can ask. Or so most of us are using VS Code with G++ compiler. Yeah, so if you have any doubts regarding problem set or quiz anytime, you can ask in group or contact any of the admins personally if you have a problem. Yeah, problem set, it's in the Code Forces group. So we have added all of you guys in a group. So in Code Forces, when you open Code Forces, go to groups and you will be able to see Summer Programming Camp 2022 group. Again, this will be explained in a Code Forces video if you don't know about Code Forces, so don't worry about that. Yeah. Yeah, is there anything more to add, Aditya, or I think this is it?
I think I covered everything. That's fine. So there's no exact time limit, guys, but you'll have to complete the job by the end of the summer school. So,
Yeah,
so
and
problems
there
with
is
completion, yeah.
and there is 80% attendance if you didn't know that. If you do 80%, if you don't attend 80% of the sessions, then you won't get certificate. The criteria is 80% attendance. Yeah, there is another question. Is it compulsory to do the problem set by everyone or not required for people already in a? Yeah, the problems are very less. This time we have made sure that we give the problems that are doable. So I think even if you know, it will be a good practice for you to solve that. Quiz link, yeah, I'm just putting right now. Yeah. So quiz link I've put here and I'll put in WhatsApp group as well.
Yeah, again, once more, just don't take the quiz marks very seriously. Assignment kind of thing than a quiz. You can go through slides in the middle of it. You can take your time and do it, right? Just ensure at the end of the quiz, you have learned something from it. That's all we expect.
Yeah. So next session will be on Saturday, 9th. The timings are same, 2 to 4:30. So yes, see you guys on Saturday. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I guess it was quite exciting to see so many people in their first week of vacation. So I guess it's quite nice you all are motivated to start your CP journey. So I would just again repeat the same, that just ensure you are able to be consistent and do the problems consistently and attend the sessions consistently. I guess you can definitely you will definitely be able to see that a lot of people around you won't be able to do. So I guess that is something which would distinguish people if you can do the things consistently or not. It's quite exciting for now that a lot of you are able to attend the session in the first week of your vacation. So yeah, thank you guys for your time and thank you for being here.